What up? It is Bones, and tonight I'm gonna go ahead and do a movie parallel. Now, this is where I take two movies that have the same source material and just take a look at both of them and see which one you would rather watch. Now, I have done these before. I did the movies of Ed Gein. I did the movies of Ted Bundy. And since we're getting into the colder time of the season, getting close to Halloween, I just want to start doing a little bit more horror content. Now, tonight, I will be doing two movies based on the abuse, torture, and murder of 16-year-old Sylvia Likens. This did take place in October of 1965 in Indianapolis, Indiana. And it's a pretty sad story. I mean, it's it's kind of a downer of a story, but at the same time, you do see that sometimes you have to stand on your 2 feet and defend yourself, or if you see someone getting hurt, you should come forward and do something about it. Now, the story is that Sylvia and her sister, who actually was had polio, so she had like a brace on her legs. Their mother and father worked the carnival circuit, and they ended up at a church meeting the lady that would go on to hurt Sylvia. And she just happened to say, well, if you guys want to, you could leave her with me and pay me, and I'll take care of them for you. Now, as they traveled a lot, it just became easier for them to say okay, and they actually left their two daughters in the care of this woman. Now, this woman, Gertrude Banzowski, was a single mom. She had a pretty rough life, and she had I think up to like 5 kids. Now, basically, she and her daughter Paula were the main abusers of Sylvia, but they also involved the younger brothers and neighborhood kids, which is pretty much unforgivable. Now, the two movies we'll be talking about are An American Crime and The Girl Next Door. An American Crime was released in 2007, directed by Timmy O'Haver, starring Ellen Page, Kathleen Keener, with some appearances by James Franco and a really young Scott Eastwood. Now, this movie is just directly based on the Sylvia Likens case. The names are the same. The story's changed around a little bit, but you do get most of the details of Sylvia Likens. The sisters in here. It's this one's a little bit different because it's not so brutal, but it does show the story. And the whole time you watch the movie, you kind of have a feeling like maybe she'll escape, like maybe she'll get away, especially if you've like never seen it before. But in the end, you know how it ends. It's a rough movie to get through. I mean, the portrayal of the of Gertie, the way they called her, was really great. That actress did an awesome job. Ellen Page is in there, looking really thin. I think the director did ask her, like, you're looking really thin. And her reply was that Sylvia wasn't getting fed, so she wasn't eating as well. And you could really see in the movie how she's like really slim. But some great performances in this movie. You really come to like you kind of actually see where like Gertrude had like a really rough life. I mean, that's no way to forgive like how she treated Sylvia, but you they just show a lot of her side, you know, like her abuse, and she's like nobody cared about her. And you also see the relationship between the sisters, Sylvia and Kathy. But one thing at the end of this movie, not even her own sister, like even though she saw her getting abused, and really at any time she could have stepped in or went, or you know, went to ask for help, and she just didn't. Supposedly she was like scared of Gertrude, but I just really can't get away from the feeling that when you see something like this, you have to stand up and protect like people that can't protect themselves, you know. So it's a really downer, not even so much a horror movie, just like a psychological torture drama. But this is more like the real story. The names are pretty much the same. Check this one out. Next up, we have The Girl Next Door. Now, this also was released in 2007, directed by Gregory Wilson, but it is actually based on a book by Jack Ketchum. Now, Jack Ketchum has done some pretty crazy stories. One of the better horror novels that I read was, I actually own it, was The Offspring, but that was made into a movie. But then they also made, he also wrote The Woman, which is like part two of The Offspring, and that was also made into a film. Two pretty good movies. I mean, they're not the best, but they're all right in the horror, cannibal, you know, style. But The Girl Next Door was one of his books that he wrote, and although he took inspiration from the Sylvia Likens story, all the names are changed, the characters are changed. The main daughter that helps Gertrude is not really in this one. So there's a lot of like subplots that are not there, but this is more like she befriends one of the boys, one of the neighborhood boys, and he keeps trying to save her or like help her, and he just in the end he's not able to before she's killed. So there's more of a story of that bond. In fact, they show he's the narrator of the story, and they actually show him when he's grown up. Now in this one you have Blythe Afford, who actually plays Meg, who's supposed to be Sylvia, and you also have Blanche Baker, Meg, who's supposed to be Gertrude. But I always remember her as the older sister in 16 Candles. Now this movie is a little bit more like visceral, and you could feel it more. They show more of her torture, and you actually see her suffer a lot more in this one. They actually show where she's like suspended above the ground for long periods of time, and all the other torturous stuff that they do to her. So even though this one's more brutal and hard to stomach than the other one, uh, the relationship between the girl and the boy, and the way he fights to like try and save her, and in the end he's not able to. This one's really a downer as well. Hard to get through. I mean, I've seen this one maybe like 5 times, and I watched it again to like do this, but I don't think I'll be watching it for a while again. Really sad story. In fact, I've actually looked up a lot of the facts of the story, and like what happened to the people afterwards. And she actually, Gertrude was actually released later on in life, and so was the daughter. So it's kind of sad. I mean, you know, sometimes justice is hard to find, you know, but all this could have been avoided if anybody would have stood up for Sylvia. So you have these two movies. If you're brave enough to watch one of these, or you're interested in like true crime, you might like these. Rest in peace to Sylvia. There is a memorial to her in Indiana, and a really sad story. Really, I'd like to see like people see this and see where they should help people, where we should help each other more. So check these out if you can find them. See you on the next one.